spoken. Okay, now we can officially start. Says the Gemara. We're on Beis Amid Beis. We're about a lot of lines up. May how many lines up? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Make it 20 lines up. Mesidei. Sukkah she gavoyim l'mayla me'esrim amma. A sukkah that's above 20 amas. Sula. Rabbi Yehuda Machshir. That's a Mishnah. No, but now Rabbi Yehuda Machshir ad aboyim b'chamisha. Lav dafka 40, 50 means not 40, 50 means anything 30, 40, 50 minutes. It's good. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and now Rabbi Yehuda wants to substantiate his position. He wants to prove that above 20 you're good. Where's this proof from? Meister behilni amalka. We met Hilni in Masech Yuma. She made something for the Beis Hamikdash. She made, I forgot exactly what she made. She could have made a candelabra for the Beis Hamikdash. She Hilni and Belud. Shoysa sukkah gavoya me'esrim amma. Her sukkah was 20 amis. But her yisakena mechnasim b'yotzim l'sham. And the Zakenim, the Chachamim would come in, they would come out. They didn't say anything. So Rabbi Yehuda wants to support his position from a Tosefta about Hilni. Hilni had a sukkah that was above 20, and no one told her it's no good. Everyone said it's okay. There's no problem. So Amrullah, the Chachamim retorted, the Chachamim say that above 20 is no good, retorted to Rabbi Yehuda, Misham Raya, from there you don't have a Raya. Isha Haisa, she's a woman. Upetura min sukkah, and she's parted from a sukkah. So Ken Zayin, she was sitting in a pasal dika sukkah, and the reason the Chachamim didn't say anything is because there's no reason to. Amalahem said Rabbi Yehuda to the Chachamim, no, I have a good raya to 20 amas being good. But like Shiva Banim Havila, she had 7 sons. Does anyone remember one of her sons? Munbiz, guys, Munbiz, right? Munbiz was one of the sons, right? She had 7 sons. And l'chayra, they were mechuyev in sukkah. And what will you say? They're ketanim. V'oid kol ma'aseh le'asasa elo pi chachamim. And now an ambiguous statement. In addition, all of her actions were in cahoots with the chachamim. Lama li lemisni v'od. Why the Gemara just simply says? Why does that cryptic statement mean? V'oid kol ma'aseh le'asa. All her actions were done. All her actions were done. Elo pi chachamim. Says Merhachi Kamar. Look, Kisam, what are you going to say? Bonim Kitanim. You're going to say the children were small, and therefore they can be in a sukkah. That's that kosher. The Kitanim B'tur Min HaSukkah. Kim the Shiva Have, since there were 7 sons, He Efshad Lehavi B'hu Chad Sheinet Tzarech L'Imay. There had to be one that didn't need the mother. Didn't wake up in the night and say, "Mommy, mommy." And therefore, there's a din of chinuch. And why are you going to say a cotton that doesn't need the mother is what is only drabanan? Who the machayev? And you'll say she doesn't listen to the chachamim. So therefore, all her actions were done according to the chachamim, and therefore she would go ahead and listen. She would go ahead and listen. So Rabbi Yehuda says, I have a raya that a sukkah above 20 amas is good. Hilni sat in it with a child that definitely there was a din of chinuch, and the Rabbanon require that you do it mechanech this child, and therefore everything would have been good. That's his raya. That's his raya. Whether there's a din of chinuch for a woman or not, Rabbi Kiva Eiga goes ahead and sends us back to Pei Beis in Yuma, where we saw that there's a din of chinuch only on the father, not on the mother, and remains with a question. One of the answers given is that you can't go ahead and feed a child isser. You can't go ahead and feed a child something that's usser. So even though there may not be a din, fellas, that you have to go ahead and let's say the child is eating the vela, you don't have to stop the child. And chinuch is a din to perform a mitzvah, to teach a child to do a mitzvah. However, there's also a halacha that you can't physically feed the child. So if you be giving the child in a sukkah that's not kosher, that would be physically feeding the child in the vela. That you can't do. Yes, Mayor, what's your question?
Forget it. I answered it myself. Forget it.
Okay. So l'chayra we have a proof from Rabbi. We have a proof from what? From Rabbi we have a proof from Rabbi Yehuda that a sukkah above 20 is good. Good. Now, says the Gemara. The Bishlem, now we're going to, guys, we want to fit it in the three pshitas. The shita of the machloikis is above, where the sukkah doesn't reach the schach, or the machloikis is by 4 amis, or the machloikis is by zayin tfachim. The three opinions are Rabbi Shai, Rav Huna, and Rabbi Chana. Says Chana Barav. Says the Gemara. Now Bishlema, L'madiyama b'shem defanis megiyas the schach. Very good. According to Rabbi Yeshaya, machloikis. That's where the machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim is. Darka shel malka leishi b'sukkah she'en defanis megiyas the schach. It's the derech of a queen to sit in a sukkah that doesn't meet just schach. Why? Mishum avira. Because of what? Because of the avir. So it would be very good what Rabbi Yehuda was saying. Says Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Shaya, the sukkah didn't reach the schach, and nonetheless, and that's where the machlokes was. And Rabbi Yehuda says that is good. The Chacham said it's not good. So you would have a valid question from Rabbi Yehuda on the Chachamim. Elman the Amar b'sukkah ketana machlokes, like the man the Amar, guys. Only like Rav Huna who says 4 amis, as we'll see. Like Rav Huna who says 4 amis, and you're telling me that's the machlokes. Guys, according to Rav Yehuda, according to Rav Huna, the machlokes between Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim is if it's 4 amis or less. 4 amis or more, it's good. 4 amis, the Chacham would agree. So going back to that brisa where Rabbi Yehuda is trying to bring a raya from Hilni, you mean to tell me Hilni's sitting in a sukkah that's 4 amis? Hilni's got a bunch of people who have to take care of her. She's not sitting, she's a queen. 4 amis is 8 feet. That's the small sukkah on your porch. Right? So it's a kasha on Rav Huna's pshat. So Amar Rabbi Ravada, like nitzrucha elo l'sukkah asuya kitonias. Okay, here's where this is the situation that we're speaking about. Picture 15. This sukkah was made little cubicles. There's a sukkah here in the middle, which you don't see. There's a big sukkah here in the middle, and you have little sukkahs. So Hilni was sitting in one. Hilni was sitting in a sukkah that was less than 4 amis, but there was a bigger sukkah, and therefore we're answering up the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, according to Rav Huna, is speaking where you have these little cubicles. So since you have these little, so she's sitting in one that's 4 amis, and l'chayra we want to bring a raya that was from her. Says Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi, like nitzchel kitana sheba. Does a malka sit in such a funny sukkah? A malka sits in what? A mamish full-fed sukkah. So in other words, Rashi explains, the kids were sitting in a full-fledged sukkah. The kids were sitting in a full-fledged sukkah. I'm not sure we have a picture of it. We might. Yeah. The sukkah's over here. She was sitting in here, guys, in the small area, and they were sitting in a full-fledged sukkah. So it makes sense now that l'chayra. So Amar Ravash, in this sukkah elo l'ktinia sheba, Rabbanan sarvi bonel b'sukkah ma'al yahave. The Rabbanan hold they were sitting in a very good sukkah. V'iyu yasi b'kitonias mishum tzniusa, because it's tznius. U'mishum hachi loy amalei davar. Rabbi Yehuda Slava bonel gabo have yasvei. V'afilu hachi loy amalei davar. So here. The question is, where are the kids sitting? The question is, where are the kids sitting? According to the Chachamim, the kids were sitting in a kosher sukkah. Put this down. According to the Chachamim, the kids were sitting in a kosher sukkah, and therefore they didn't say anything. Hilni was in the puzzle, they were in the kosher part, everything was okay. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they were all sitting in the small area, and therefore, since the kids have to be, one of them at least has to be mechuyev and chinuch for a sukkah. And since they didn't see anything, therefore Rabbi Yehuda wants to bring a raya. So what basically, guys, what the Gemara just did, it's a very detailed Gemara about the following. We want to learn pshat in the question that Rabbi Yehuda was going ahead and asking the Chachamim. They were asking from a question from what? From a brisa. Okay, the question where be as it may is a question. However, who does it fit in according to? According to the shita of that the eye doesn't go up, according to the Shita of 4 Amis, according to the Shita of Zayin Tvachim. So Bishleim, according to the Magias, the air, that's great. It's not a problem fitting it in. Why? A Malka will sit in a sukkah that has airspace on top, and there's machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham, and Rabbi Yehuda saying, look, it's good, and Chacham saying it's no good. According to the opinion of 4 Amis, but what's the case speaking about? The case is she's sitting in an area of 4 Amis. They're sitting in a very good sukkah. So like Rabbi, like the Chachamim, the Chachamim the Zakanim who came there didn't say anything because the kid who was Mechuyev is sitting in a full-fledged sukkah. Masha'en came Rabbi Yehuda, they were sitting together in an area of 4 Amis, and nonetheless they didn't say anything. And therefore that's why Rabbi Yehuda brings a raya from there. But that's the crux of the matter. Now the halacha over here is interesting. What's the halacha about a sukkah that is the height of a sukkah? Now, none of us have this problem because none of us are building a sukkah that high. But nonetheless, here's the halacha.
All these sukkahs in Borough Park, these big sukkahs that they make, the rabbis.
Excuse me?
All the big sukkahs that they make in Borough Park, they have these huge sukkahs.
Are they 40 feet high?
I don't know. Could be.
Really? Really?
Like above has a huge sukkah, above it's pretty
Is
high.
it 40 feet high, guys? I was in that sukkah. It's not 40 feet high.
40 feet is 4 stories tall. That's
Guys,
4 stories tall.
Again, you can't believe how it's 35. There's no way in the world it's that high. There's no way. It's just not. It's not possible. No one builds a sukkah that high. I was in the Bell sukkah in Eretz Yisrael, which is probably the biggest sukkah in the world. They don't. It's not that high. Okay. Anyway, din sukkah mal mechaf sukkah shechalal gavoy mechaf ama shekol ama bo shisha tfachim mitzutzamis. Remember, machlokes whether a 5 tfachim to an ama or 6 tfachim to an ama. The hainu arba right psula b'chol efanim. It's now. Here's what the key is. Bein shi rechava b'dal and amis ubeinim adefonis magias l'schach. In other words, we don't whether it's 4 amis like Rav Huna or like Rav Yoshia, we don't pass them like that. Shetam psul l'mayla mechavhu mishum sukkah diras aroy beinin. Right? You need a diras aroy. In the machlokes between Rav Zera and Rav Rava, we pass them like Rava, guys. And the halacha is that we need a diras aroy. Anything above 20 is not a diras aroy. So even if you can expand it and you're going to sit in the sale of the schach, it doesn't make a difference, right? And even if the size, it doesn't make a difference. Key who's there. The key here is what? That it's 20 amis. 20 amis is no good. Okay. Now, if you do make a sukkah in a place that's kavua, as long as it's less than 20, then you are good. Then you are good. Okay. The Torah is not makbid. In other words, Rabbi's answer to Abaya. What was his question? If you go ahead and you make a sukkah out of iron less than 20, right? You make a sukkah out of iron less than 20, you're going to tell me that's good? And the answer is absolutely. I'm going to tell you that's good. It does work. Okay, very good. Now, to facilitate understanding next, Maya, do me a favor, Maya, go to your reactions and take off your hand up. It's a little disturbing, okay? The same place you put it, click it again. Now look at Pasuk Chavches. Daf Chavches, guys. Daf Chavches. There's a Mishnah. Art Scroll should have it also. I figure the first volume has 28, right? Chavches. Misha hoya roishay beruba b'sukkah. Someone whose head and body, majority were in the sukkah. The shulchan b'sukkah bayis, and the shulchan's in the house. So he and his body is in the sukkah, but the shulchan's in the house. Beis Shammai poislin. Beis Shammai says it's pasul. Beis Hillel machshirin, and Beis Hillel says it's kosher. Now, fellas, what's the lashon of pasul and kosher? It's mashmit's going on the sukkah, right? The sukkah is pasul, or the sukkah is kosher. That's the mashmois of the lashon. But if you look at that, it's mashma. This shaila has nothing to do with the size of the sukkah. It has to do whether he's going to be drawn into the house. Misha Yerushav Ruba b'sukkah, he's in a sukkah. V'shulchana b'saycha bayis, and the shulchan is in the house, right? Beishami Paisin Beisil Machshirin. So I just gave you the hint to understand the sugya. In the Havamina of the Gemara, the machloikis between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is whether the size of the sukkah. In fact, however, the machloikis is in a different venue. The machloikis is whether in an existing sukkah that's kosher, whether you'll be drawn into the house or not. That's the Gemara we're going to see right now. Says the Gemara. We're on back to Daf Gimel. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. New Gemara. Halacha, the halacha is tzricha shedei machzekes roishay v'ruba v'shulchani. The halacha is the minimal size of a sukkah is 7 tefachim. That's the share of roishay v'ruba v'shulchani, 7 tefachim. So Amalei Rav Abba kiman ki Beis Shammai. Again, Beis Shammai said it's puzzle, but we just looked at, and Beis Hillel says it's kasha. Amalei el kaman el who else? So Ikedi Amri Amar Rav Abba the Amar Lechamani. They asked, who is this according to? Amalei Beis Shammai he. Mina and don't move from there. Now we know that the halacha is always like Beis Hillel. A Baskol came out and said the halacha is like Beis Hillel. So take a look at Taisus, quick look, just the beginning of Taisus, second Taisus on the page. Do not move from this din. The Seder of Amram Pasak b'shishim ekomos halacha Beis Shammai. 6 places the halacha Beis Shammai is, and this is one of them. That the share of the sukkah is Zayin Tfachim Roishay Ruba V'Shulchanai. Back in the Gemara. Mascular of Nachman by Yitzchak, Mimai de Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, the sukkah katana pligi. How do you know they're arguing to the dimensions of a sukkah katana? Dilma b'sukkah gedoyla pligi. Maybe they're arguing about what? By sitting in a big sukkah, an existing kosher sukkah. Ukigoin di Yosef apuma de metalusa. They're sitting at the entrance of the sukkah. V'shalchana b'seich habayis. So Roishay v'rubai are in the sukkah, but the shulchan's in the house. The Beis Shammai savri gazrinon shema yimshach achash shulchanai. Or Beis Hillel savri loy gazrinon. Right? In other words, what are you worried about? Not whether it's a kosher sukkah or not, whether your meal will go ahead and be drawn to the table, and the table's in the house. V'deikanami diktani misha hoishay roishay v'ruba b'sukkah v'shulchani b'seich habayis. Someone whose head and right of his body was in the sukkah, and the shulchan was b'seich habayis. Beis Shammai poislin, Beis Hillel machshirin. Guys, 1 second. V'im isa, if the machloikus was by the size of the sukkah, machzekes ve'en machzekes mi boilei. It should be it's machzik or it's not machzik, right? In other words, it should say is the sukkah it's machzik not. It says no sukkah tani le pligi v'tanya machzekes roishev rubu shulchanik sheira. If it's that size, it's kasha. Rabbi oimer ashei ba arba amis. Rabbi Shita has to be alba amis. V'tanya idach Rabbi oimer kol sukkah sheba arba amis alamis. So that's Rabbi goes consistent. Now the chachamim oimrim afilu ein machzekes ela roishev rubai sheira. Roishev rubai not shulchan. The ilu shulchan like katani kashna dodi. First price of guys. In order for a sukkah to be kosher, you need what? Roishay rubai shulchanai. Second brisa, Roishay rubai, not shulchanai. How could you answer that? So Bishleim, if you say this is according to Beis Shammai and this is according to Beis Hillel, you're good. But if you're going to say there and argue, who is this according to? Right? If you're saying the whole machloikis is whether you're going to be drawn into the house or not, who is this according to? Says the Gemara, Elolav Shmamina Ha Beis Shammai. The one brisa that says you need both. You need Rosh Ruba Shulchanai is according to Beis Shammai, and Beis Hillel Ha Beis Hillel, and the one that says Rosh Ruba and not Shulchanai is Beis Hillel. So now you have a problem. The Misa, and if the Machloikis is what by the Machloikis is only by Rosh Ruba and being drawn into the house. They should have said you're not Yaitza or Yaitza. Pirish. I'm sitting in a kosher sukkah. If I'm drawn into the house, I'm not Yaitza the mitzvah of sukkah. You're not puzzle. That's the diak I made, guys, right? Guys, you're sitting in a sukkah. That's kosher. Yeah? And now you're drawn into a house. Puzzle? It's not a puzzle sukkah. It's a good sukkah. It means you're drawn into the house, you're not Yaitza the mitzvah of yeshiva sukkah. Why? Because you're not eating in the sukkah. But it's not describing the din in the sukkah. So it's mashma that what? That they argue about the sukkah as well. When they said psulim, ksherim, they were arguing on the dimensions of the sukkah. So there's 2 machloikas in. One, what's the share of sukkah? Beis Shammai says, Rosh Ruba b'shulchanai. Says Beis Hillel, no, it's less than that. It's Rosh Berubai. Second machloikas, if the shulchan's in the house and you're sitting in a kosher sukkah, what's the halacha? Are you yoitza or not? Are we worried you're going to go in or not? So there's two machlokes. Says the Gemara, velakasha mi shahaya la'olam mishalim ba'olam, which says psulim ksherim. Right? Says the Gemara betati pligas. You have two machlokes, as I just told you. Pligi b'sukkah katana, upligi b'sukkah gedola, v'chsuri mechsra, and that Bryce is missing words. Here's the way you have to learn it. Pshat in that Mishnah, the Mishnah. Misha Roisha Veruba B'Sukkah, someone who is Roisha Veruba B'Sukkah, B'Shulchan B'Sukkah Bayis, meaning he's sitting in a kosher sukkah, and the shulchan is in the house. You're not yotza. You know why? You may be drawn after the sukkah, after the shulchan. That's one machlokes. Second machlokes, Ushein Machzekes Elekatei Roisha Veruba B'Vad. And a sukkah that only can contain a body and a head and not a table. Very geschmack. Good. The Gemara now goes off into the tangential sunset. The Gemara goes and extends the following din. The minimal share of a house is 4 amas by 4 amas. We saw that according to the Shittas of Rabbi, a sukkah has to be 4 amas by 4 amas. We're going to show this din of 4 amas by a bias in a venue of very many halachas. So we're going to say the brisa, and then the Gemara will explain the brisa. I will go ahead, Bez Hashem's, explain case by case. Most of them you're familiar with, 1 or 2 you may not be. Says the Gemara, Man Tana, who's the Tana? Lahad the Tana Rabbanon. Bias shein by 4 amas, 5 amas. A bias that's not 4 amas by 4 amas. Potter min mezuzah. I think we're all familiar with that, right? It's potter from mezuzah. It's not a house. Min amaka. A maka is a fence up you put on the top to prevent someone from falling off. Again, 4 by 4 is not a house. There's no chiyuv of a maka. Ve'ena mitam ben negoyim. The negoyim to go ahead and say that this house is tamei because it has a tzras in it. If it's less than 4 by 4, it's not subject to that halacha. This halacha is not so well known that if you sell your house in a walled city, you have a year to redeem it. If you don't redeem it within a year, you lose it. If the house is less than 4 by 4, you can redeem it any time. The halacha of Bati Ari Chayma does not apply. You're familiar with the halacha, the Kohen HaMeshuach giving a battle speech. Anyone who's just married the first year, go back home. Someone who has a new house, go back home. If that new house is 4 by 4, you don't go back home. There's no need to go ahead and be part of an Erev. Again, you have 4 houses in a chutzner. You want to carry in the chutzner. You make an Erev chatzeres. If one of those houses is less than 4 by 4, he doesn't count. If you want to carry in a mavoy, in an alleyway, again, these are all halachas d'Rabbanan. If the chutzner is open up to the mavoy, in order to carry in the mavoy, to move things, you have to make a sheet of mavois. If one of the houses that opens into the chutzner is less than 4 by 4, he doesn't have to be part of that. And you can't leave your Erev in that house. The mechanics of the Erev is we take a piece of bread or meal, we put it in a person's house, and now that house becomes all our jurisdiction. If the house is 4 by 4, you can't put it in there. And you can't make an ibur between 2 cities. This maybe we'll look a picture of this. You have a city over here and a city over here. You get 2,000 amas from here and 2,000 amas from here, directionally. If this area between here is 70 2/3 and 72 thirds, it's 141 and a third. It meets over here. If you have a house over here, this house will make it 1 city. So you'll get 2,000 amas from, let's say this is the south side, and 2,000 amas from the north side. So the house combines the city to make it 1. Ibur means like a pregnant woman. It makes it like an extension. So in Mela, if this is 4 amas or more, you're good. If it's 4 amas or less, you're going to be subject to 2,000 amas from here and 2,000 amas from there. There's a din of burgenin, guys, just burgenin the city. You're going to start counting to Tchum, not from here. You're going to start counting from this hut. Okay, that's the halachas. Back inside. The ain oisen top line, the oisen oisay ibur ben shtei royas. You can make it as protrusion between two cities to connect the cities together to be considered one, to go ahead and give you 2,000 amas from each ends of the city. The ain achana shutafim chalkin boy. And the half of the Gemara is a house that's 4 amas, less than 4 amas, that is such a minimal amount that when sons come to divide it up from the father's estate, it's too little to divide up. Lema Rabbi hi v'lei Rabbanan. Let's suggest it's according to Rabbi and not the Rabbanan. Why? Because Rabbi said 4 amas. The Rabbanan said even less than 4 amas. The Rabbanan said Zayin Tfachim is a sukkah. I feel him Rabbanan. Ad kan lekam Rabbanan hasam el inyan sukkah. The diras aroi that you need a diras aroi, and Zayin Tfachim is a diras aroi. Aval gabe the bias the diras kevahu regarding a house that's a diras keva, and all those halachas were a diras keva. I feel Rabbanan Moida, even Rabbanan who say Zayin Tefachim by Sukkah would be Moida regarding all those halachas. You need at least 4 amas. The Ispe Dal Amas al Dal Amas. Dari Boyanshi, a person lives in 4 amas with 4 amas. Beloy loy Dari Boyanshi. If not. So the Chachamim would agree. Again, the Machloikas is by Sukkah, Zayin Tefachim versus 4 amas. Why? Because it's a Diras Aroi. But all the cases we mentioned Aroi, when you need a full-fledged bias, the Chachamim Moida, if it's less than 4 amas, it's not a full-fledged bias. Okay, now. Amamar always means, as we always say, going over the brisa. Amamar, we're going back over the brisa. Amamar patim min amezuzah min amaiko ve'imitam mergoyim ve'in nichlat bebati orichayma ve'in choyzim lov mi orchi amulchama. Notice those are all linked together because those are all the raisa dikadinim, guys. Those are, as opposed to the erevin dikadinim, those dinim are all dinim that are found in the Torah. My timer, the bias ksiv bahu. By all those things, it says bias. Let's see quick Rashi, guys. Kula bias ksiv bahu. Mezuzah is beisecha. You see, it says bias by mezuzah. Kisibna bias chadash. It says that's a maika. Uboa shaloi habayis is negoyim. Kiyimcha bias moishav is batei orichayma. And asher bona bias chadash is by returning from the archim milchama. By all these things, it says the lashon of bias. Memela and 4 amas is not a bias. Very geschmack. Back in the Gemara. The Ema Arvin boy. Now these are the Rabbana now. The Ema Arvin boy, Vein Mushtafin boy, Vein Manichin boy Erev. It doesn't have to be part of the Erev. You can't leave a sheet. It doesn't have to be part of Shitufim voice, and you can't leave the food in it. My timer, Lechazi Ladira, because it's not a place that's Chazi Ladira. So since it's not Chazi Ladira, it's not considered a house that its presence there would stop you from being able to carry, because it's not a house, so people can't live in it.
But the people from that room, are they allowed to walk out into the main thing, carry?
Absolutely. They could do anything. Now, a ruve chatzeres, a manichin boy. Now, just aside, be medayik lashon. You don't leave an erev chatzeres in it. Aval shituf manichin boy to be mishtatif the 2 chatzeres. Guys, let's go three areas from the. Okay, we can do this. We can do this much better. We can go back. Yeah. Different areas. Where's my thing? Where's my guy? There we are. To go ahead and carry from here to here, you need Erev Chatzeris. To carry from here, into there, you need a sheet of Mavois. So we said, the Inyan, you putting in, let's say this house was less than 4 amas, you can't put the food in here. But the Inyan sheet of Mavois, you could. Making part of the Mava, you could put it in there. That's what the Gemara is stating. In your sheet of voice, you can put it in there, okay? So now let's see why. It's no difference than the chatzer and the mavoy. That none. A ruve chatzeres bechatzer. An erev chatzeres you can leave in the chatzer. That doesn't make sense, guys. An erev chatzeres has to be in a house, right? An erev chatzeres in the chatzer makes no sense. Shitufi mavoy b'mavoy. V'avinamba erev chatzeres bechatzer. You're going to put the erev chatzeres. You're going to put down in a chatzer. V'tanan. If any puts an erev in a guard's house where people walk through all the time, achsadra is a portico in front of a house where people walk through all the time. Peses is an aliyah, is a porch that we saw that has a ladder up and it collects a bunch of houses. People walk through all the time. Ain't no erev. You can't put your erev over there because people are walking through it all the time. V'hadasham adasham eno oiser. And someone who lives there doesn't aser. Someone who lives there doesn't aser. That answers your question, Shragi. Right? The person who lives there. I had to remember your name because it's been a while. I think Penny, you have to bring out the zing sign for Shragi. He just got zinged. Shragi here, you officially. He'll do it later. Ela ema erube chatzeres bebayish shebachatzer. Don't say you can put an erev chatzeres in a chatzer. You can't put it down in the chatzer. You can put it in a house in the chatzer. Ushitufi mevoyis bechatzer. But you can put the shituf mevoyis in the chatzer. In other words, to make that mavoy, that you can put in the chatzer. You don't have to put in the house, right? That picture that we saw, priest, right? You can go ahead. To make the sheet of voice, you can put over here. Erev chatzeres to carry here and here has to be in a house. To carry over here, you can put it even over here. So now, so let's say, guys, the house is less than 4 amis. It's not a house. So just like you can put the sheet of the mavoy in the chatzer, you can put the sheet of the mavoy in that house that's less than 4 amis. That's all we stated. Okay, that's all we stated. We just stated that I love. You can't make it that's 72 thirds. You can't put it in the middle there to go ahead and make the city one big city to carry 2,000 from the other side. You won't make it even like that burgen in that hut that I showed you. My time. The burgenin, the burgenin who's watching the field, he can sleep in the hut. So it's seen for something. But high, if it's less than 4 amas, it's not seen for anything. The final din was the Mashma, we said it's too little. It says the Gemara, 1 second. Bishlema the less beidal amas ha'is beidal amas cholkin v'tanan ein cholkin es a chatzir achi ba'arba amas zazer amas zazer. You're telling me if it's 4 amas or less, you can't divide. Mashma 4 amas or more you could divide. It's not true. You have to. It has to be 8 amas that each one receives 4 amas. So it's not a true statement. So the havamina that you had that something that's 4 can't be divided. That's not the pshat. Well, what's the pshat? It doesn't have the din of chalukah of a chatzer. As it says in Baba Basra. Let's say you have a hey guys in the bottom. I'll try to make this bigger. I lost it. This person owns 3 of these. One person owns 1. So this person who owns the 3 is going to get 3/4 of the thing. 1, 2, 3. This is going to get 1, according to him. The chutzner is divided according to the amount of size. Now, this person base has a larger area. It doesn't make a difference. It's Pesach. Everything's going according to the Pesach. Rav Chisda says it goes according to this. Every Pesach gets 4 amis, and you divide the rest equally. So that's the machlokes. So only if the house is 4 amis will you go ahead and say this halacha applies. If the house is not 4 amis, you won't say this halacha applies. Says the Gemara. According to the amount of psachim you have, that's the amount of ground you'll get. The one who has more openings will get more ground in the property. Each pesach gets 4 amis, and the rest is divided equally. Now, so meaning, if your house is less than 4 amis, it doesn't mean anything. Hani mili bias that has 4 amis, a house that's going to be standing and stay, you'll give what? A chutzah to. Hi, this one that's less than 4 amis, that you're going to knock it down, you don't give a chutzah. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening. Wish you a good night. Welcome.